They also said about the stationary and non-stationary signal, the differences, and the application of Fourier transform in this field. Okay. After this discussion and study, it seems if we decompose a SAT signal of SAT to 4 groups, A, B, C, and D, and then we applied Fourier transform for each part. As you remember, I said that SAT contains these changes, okay? And these blue changes is too smooth. Then the frequency of these blue changes is related to low frequency. And if you consider A, B, C, and D, you see all the diagram has this low frequency. It is clear that it contains this low frequency. Maybe the amount of this frequency is different, but all of them has this low frequency and shows these changes, these smooth changes. In addition to this blue diagram, if you compare, as I said before, if you compare part A with part C, it is clear, it is obvious that the changes in part C is lower the changes in part A. Then the frequency in part C is lower the frequency in part A. And it is clear also here. If you compare them, you see the frequency of part A has higher measurement. It contains higher frequency compared with C. Okay? And from this idea, one person who called Gabor Dance proposed a simple modification of Fourier transform kernel. He proposed this. In the previous, we have only this exponential for the Fourier kernel, but he multiplied a window to this kernel, and in this way he tries to, of course he tried to present and to give temporal information and to preserve, and it is better I said that he tried to preserve temporal information. And it is the modified Gabor transform. The Gabor transform, also known as short-time Fourier transform. Short-time Fourier transform, you see here. Okay. And the context of short-time Fourier transform is clear in this diagram. Please consider the absolute of SAT. Okay, I mean the absolute here is the real part of the stick. Okay. If you consider this window, the temporal duration of this window is A, and the time of happening this window is tau. Okay, then this kernel has a fix A, and it translates during the signal. It translates during the signal. For instance, it could be here, multiplied by signal, then we calculate the Fourier transform, and it is in a short time of A. Because of this, we called it short time Fourier transform. In the next step, for instance, it is here, then we calculate Fourier transform of this, and then step by step, it translates during the signal, along the signal. Okay. And this figure also shows the schematic of temporal processing, Fourier processing, and Gabor processing. Okay. It is clear that in temporal processing, the resolution is related to time and the resolution of processing. I mean that we analyze the signal only in the time domain. If we consider Fourier transform, the resolution of information, the resolution of data processing is related to frequency, and this type of processing is processed in frequency domain. But if you consider Gabor, you see we have the both of them, time and frequency, and in Gabor domain we can consider the both information of time and frequency. And like on the transformation, we can also discretize this transform, and you can consider the original form, and then change the continuous form to the discrete form, and then we have this modification. And the best selection of omega 0 and T0 is that they are between 0 and 1. For more information, I recommend you please follow the book in this field. Okay. And again, in this graphical description, there is a trade-off between time and frequency. In this diagram, you see the resolution of time and frequency is the same. The resolution is similar to each other. If you expand the temporal resolution and increase the temporal resolution, you have the decreased resolution along the frequency direction. And also, if you decrease the temporal resolution, the frequency resolution increase. They are in inverse relationship with each other. We know that the time and frequency are in inverse relationship, and here it is also affect on the temporal and frequency resolution in Gabor transformation. And as you see, the Gabor transform established two key principles for joint time frequency analysis: translation of a short time window and scaling of the short time window to capture a finer time resolution, namely tau and A. If I remind you, if we have, for instance, this signal, then we can consider this window. The duration of this window is 8, and it translates during the signal. Okay. And from the origin we called it tau. Okay, if A is changes, then the temporal resolution changes, and then it affects on the frequency resolution. And in Gabor, always the shape of window is like this, but we can have many other shapes for this window. Then another transformation appeared, and they called it a wavelet, and they called this window mother wavelet, and usually they showed this mother wavelet with a psi, and then this psi has a translation by B, and also a scale with A. And there are a variety of mother wavelets. For instance, we have a half wavelet. You see its shape here. Okay, and if we scale it, the frequency resolution also changes. Here, this duration is larger than this duration. Then in frequency domain, it is inverse. The frequency resolution is better than the upper diagram. Again, if we consider the graphical depiction of the difference between time series, Fourier series analysis, Gabor, and wavelet. Please attention to this graphical depiction. Yeah, we saw this, and this before, but now consider this schematic of wavelet. At first, we have all the signal, then we can access to frequency resolution. At the next step, we scale the mother wavelet. Okay, then the resolution changes. In the next step, we again change. Consider here. It is each part of the second part is divided to 2. Okay, and here we have this resolution, and we continue this scaling these levels to achieve good information. Maybe third level of wavelet is good for is proper to achieve sufficient information. Maybe 5 levels are needed. It depends on the data. It depends on the inherent features and characteristics of signal or image. But totally, it is like this. And another thing is in this field of Fourier analysis is spectrogram. A spectrogram is like these images, and is the visual representation of a spectrum of frequency of a signal as it varies with time. And a spectrum calculated by this equation. We calculated the Fourier transform, then by this equation we calculate the spectrum. Okay. This figure is related to speech, is related to angry speech, neutral speech without any feelings, and sad speech. And each column is related to different spectrogram. For instance, a linear spectrogram, Mele spectrogram, ERB spectrogram, or lag spectrogram. For our purpose here, only we can consider one column. Only, for instance, consider the second column. Okay? It is clear. When a person speaks in an angry way, the frequency changes are completely different from sad. You understand this? If a person is sad, he or she may be in the stochastic population. Okay, he or she doesn't want to speak. He speaks slowly. Okay, then frequency changes are completely different from angry person with a high feeling. Okay, and neutral is the middle of this. We can many example in this field. For example, the spectrogram of biosignal of all a body is completely different in various diseases. Okay. And now, if we want attention to MATLAB, this wavelet and filter design are two toolboxes in MATLAB. Filter design and analysis toolbox is FDA tool, and wavelet toolbox is wave menu. We can consider it here. We review this paper of chapter 13. Okay. The PowerPoint is the abstract of this chapter. You can follow these equations, but for me and for this course, the context is more important. Okay, here again spectrogram. There are some codes. I will run it. Just wait a little. And if you consider the gable, this window could be different. Then we can consider filter design using FDA tool, and in FDA tool you only by pressing some button and select some parameters, okay, and this filter also can be used for denoising that I explained in the previous sessions. And also wave menu is related to wavelet. For one-dimensional for signal processing, for two-dimensional for image processing, and like this. I will explain some projects, some exercise that you must do it with these two toolbars, okay? And here are some examples that you can see. For example, if you have this original image, and if you use the wavelet decomposition on the second level, you can access different details and various details about this image. In the next chapter, we will explain more about this. For example, some of them related to horizontal edge, some of them related to vertical edge, okay? Some of them related to noise, if our image has some noises. And then after that, for example, we can select this, for example, okay? And then we use the inverse of a wavelet transform, and D here is discrete wavelet transform. Then instead of all the details, only we use 3 parts, and then again reconstruct the image, okay? And then we claim that instead of using all the details, only 3 of them is enough. Then our time saved, okay, and computational cost is also lower. Okay, this interpretation is related to you. You will do exercises and write report about the results, okay? And another thing that I would like to run it is related to this code. I run it. This figure is too interesting. It is related to gable. This is the gable filter. Consider this red as a window, and also consider SAT in black, okay? In the middle, you can see the part of the red and black. And in the third one, you see the result of this windowing signal in the Fourier domain. You see, for example, here, the changes is slow. Then we have low frequency, okay, and it translate during the signal. Okay, and here the changes are higher, then the frequency is also higher. Okay, and this is expectable. The code are in the book. You only need to copy paste to MATLAB. Again, I run it. Please attention. To read the translation of red signal of red window multiplying by black signal, and attention to temporal changes and frequency changes. This code is so nice. Really, it is so nice. Okay. I will send the exercise of this chapter and I explain about this. Thanks very much for your attention and thanks for your time. Have a good time. Bye bye.
هسه ما يخالف هذا شوي يعني